Surprise! But sex, 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 but
I love Team Fortress memes. Hello guys, my name is kiminekyt and this new video called the Top 5 Moneymakers. Something which is at this point slowly becoming almost like a new series on my channel. Series that I release annually. Yeah. So though, as always, before this video starts, I want to set a couple of rules that I'll follow throughout this video, so I can clear some of the confusion that I may cause by, for example, not picking your favorite tanks. I genuinely got a friend that loves this tank, and no, it's not gonna be on the list. Rule number 1. For a tank to appear on this list, it should both earn a lot of money and feel enjoyable to play with at the same time. What's a moneymaker good for if it's gonna make you burnt out within a month of you buying it? Rule number 2. No, this tank sucks on town maps kinds of tanks. It's simply boring when you get that good old wiener spam that you have to suffer through and you can't do anything about it. Actually, now that I think of it, it's more like an extension of the rule number 1. Whatever. Rule number 3. No one nation dominance. If there are two tanks of the same nation, the third one is gonna be placed into the honorable mentions. Rule number 4 would normally be something like that every tank present on the list has to be also currently available in a shop, but because of the way current shop works, I decided to cut this rule out as it makes no sense, especially since we are talking about mostly premium tanks. Well, now to the real rule number 4. No T-34, Patriot or Defender. The T-34 aced in the previous two lists and I realized that it simply breaks my ranking. The Patriot is banned because literally everyone knows it's an OP moneymaker and there is no point in highlighting it even more, and lastly, no Defender because no one likes Russian abortions. But now that I finally went through all the rules, let's start this list with a tank placed on the 5th place. The WZ-121GFT. That's a pretty long name you got there. This tank was introduced into the game not so long ago, a couple months ago at the very most, but ever since then the tier 8 matches became a mere shooting ground for it. It's like that mainly thanks to its amazing gun, which deals more damage per minute to the enemy team than Trump deals every day to the American reputation. It also has a rather decent 248mm of penetration and a great accuracy of .35. Not the best amongst TDs, but in my opinion a fair trade for having such ridiculous DPM. However, what's the most ridiculous thing about this gun is that while it has nearly 3000 DPM, it still keeps the Soviet traditions by having 440 alpha damage. With all this, you truly feel like a little rocket man every single time you threaten those inferior Americans. But now to the other stats of this tank. Firstly, the mobility, which is once again decent. It is not the best one around, that place is already taken by the French, which needed for air tactical advance. Backwards, but it's not the worst one either, because that place is already taken by the Japanese. Hero, energy please, you're beast now. Last thing about this tank is the thing that sets this tank apart from the Scorpion G and the S1, the armor. These three tanks constantly compete with each other in the top 10 tanks with the highest average net gain. However, because of the rule number 2, the WZ came out as a clear winner, as it is the only one that actually has some armor. That obviously doesn't mean that the other two are completely useless or something, it just means that they are less fit for urban environment and prefer fighting on the field. Still though, the WZ has frontal armor that's comparable to the IS-3, 200 overall effective frontal hull armor that's achieved mainly through angling and not by raw armor thickness. Unlike IS-3, however, it doesn't have a pike nose, which means that you can actually angle yourself. Not that you achieve much by doing so, but it is possible nonetheless. But with an armor like that, this tank should be good in close range combat, no? Well, not exactly. The lower plate that this thing has less than 130 effective armor thickness, meaning that almost everything can penny up close. But now I'm going to take my Lola with me so we can progress to the 4th tank on this list, the Levy. Yes, again. Hey, don't look at me like that, I love this tank. I wanna die. No, for real, I really wanna die. This tank was buffed not so long ago. Well, technically it's almost a year since then, but remember we are playing World of Tanks and 1 year is nothing in the eyes of wargaming. But still, this tank received some minor buffs which made it a bit more competitive. It's still not top notch, but it can already face Patriot and Town and come out victorious, which is a pretty damn good achievement if you think about it. Still though, this abomination of a tank is what happens when you give a British engineer a bottle of vodka, a schnitzel with french fries on the side and some compote to flush it all down with. He will know what the hell is even happening and will drop the project in favor of mouse. Because why the fuck would someone waste such a delicious Slavic breakfast? But thanks to this confusion, the Lorraine became an insanely versatile tank despite its simple blocky looks. On one side it performs exceptionally well on town maps thanks to its high amounts of armor and flat frontal and side hull armor. But on the other side it performs well on maps where it can hide its lower plate behind a ridgeline and just peek out from behind it with its circular turret design and 10 degrees of gun depression. But no one cares about the 10 degrees of gun depression. The only thing that matters to us is the snowbank 40 degrees.
Making money comes easy to the leather. Oh.
Another good thing about this tank has to be definitely its penetration, because with 234 standard AP shot penetration, this tank is almost like a TD in the skin of a heavy tank. If only the DPM wasn't the pure garbage that it is. Lastly, we get a mobility, which together with its DPM are the only things in which the Lorraine truly lags behind. Literally. The Lorraine is one of those Nazi super heavy tanks, meaning that it's a wonder that it even moves, let alone moves faster than walking speed, so it's no surprise it takes a good couple of minutes for it to get into position. And even then you have to constantly worry about random mediums engaging onto you, as literally anything can circle you out unless you got a wall nearby. However, once you learn how to deal with that horrendous mobility while staying sane, and maybe cooking dinner or something in the meantime, because geez, it will take quite some time, you'll be greeted with a tank that can do practically anything anywhere, even scouting, sort of. But now to the third tank of this list, which is gonna be none other than the Black Dog. This tank was always considered an exceptionally good light tank, but it had its rivals which could kill it rather easily. However, ever since the tier 10 light tanks were added to the game, this tank became an unrivaled top dog of the tier 8 light tanks. How is that possible? Well, it's a premium tank, and we know exactly what wargaming does with premium tanks. Nothing. Literal jack diddly shit nothing. So even if every single light tank in the game had its gun replaced with a cotton earbud for the sake of balance, this tank remained untouched. It had its old DPM, its old penetration, old accuracy, you know the drill. This means that you basically got a medium tank gun on light tank. Pretty OP, huh? That's not all though, as this tank is also one of the fastest tier 8 tanks, with 21 horsepower to ton ratio, astounding ground resistance and 72.4 km/h top speed. You're gonna be the fastest cotton picker in the neighborhood. And even if things would go down south, you can use its black jeans to run away like a goddamn Usain Bolt that this thing pretends to be. Thankfully for others, the black jeans also make you a bit harder than the rest of the light tanks, so it's rather easy to get hit while playing it, especially if you think about the fact that its main competitors are the Even 90 and the T92, both which are so tiny that you better get yourself a lottery ticket, as you get a higher chance of winning that than ever hitting one of these. Lastly, the Black Dog is a light tank, so its armor is obviously pretty bad, so let's just pretend that it's not even there, because it isn't, and move to the tank occupying the second spot on my list. The M4A1, the Reveler... Still can't pronounce his name. So the new number 2 tank is gonna be the Lorraine 40T. Did you seriously think that I would pick this shit over Lorraine? Hell no! The only thing in which this thing is better than the Lorraine is, well, the retarded brigade name, but also super cheap shells. Mainly the super cheap shells, because they are the ones responsible for this. Thanks to that, the M4A is kinda like the T-34, except for the fact that it's even worse because it has no armor. It's literally M4, a Sherman, tier 5. But still, the Lorraine 40T is a French autoloading medium tank with nearly 1700 DPM, 300 alpha damage and 4 shells in a clip. This adds up to an absolute amazing 1200 damage per clip, which is able to one-clip most of the smaller tanks. Well, at least more than this McDonald's fueled fat ass. The best thing about this gun though is the 232 penetration it has, that's able to penetrate most, if not all tanks you meet. And then again, and again, and again. Alright, we understand. Thanks to this, you won't have to dip into those expensive premium rounds all that often and will earn more credits as a result of that. This tank is also surprisingly agile, considering that it looks like a tank made by Walmart. With 21 horsepower to ton ratio, decent ground resistances and 60 km/h top speed, it moves almost as fast as an average light tank. It's just bigger. A lot bigger. Yeah, I'm going to glorify it as much as I can. Lastly, despite the fact that it's thick as fuck, I was not kidding about that, it has literally no armor at all. You can shoot it anywhere and it will go through. God, the side armor is so thin that it's guaranteed overmatch for like 90% of the tanks on this tier. But now to the number 1 tank on this list, which I didn't expect would get this far. The Progetto M35 Mod 46. The reason why I thought it would never get this high is because it's Italian, and as we all might know, the Italians are not exactly known for their tanks. They've been a disgrace in the Second World War. But in game they are pretty damn good, except for the fact that their gun is kinda computed times from what it wants to be. Just like the Italy, am I right? It can be used as both a single shot gun and an autoloader at the same time, depending on the situation you get into. On one side it has 3 shells in a clip, giving you the potential burst of 900, but on the other side it reloads every shell separately. So if you fire a single shell and the enemy runs away, you won't have to wait for 30 plus seconds. Thanks to this, the tank can be used for virtually anything, anywhere. The EPM monster fired once and leave. Finishing off somebody, empty your load. Your wife pregnant? Run away and change your phone number. She was white anyways. Your channel is dying. Be sarcastically racist. Your top will surely love it. Simply said, it's insanely versatile. So versatile that you literally can't ever win a trade against it unless you get a buddy with you, which just so happens to be an E100. But enough talking about this gun, and let's get to the mobility and armor of this thing. The mobility is mediocre, not somehow amazing, but I wouldn't say it's somewhat bad either. And the armor is pretty bad. Originally I thought it's pretty good, considering that it has a circular shape, but when I actually got up against this thing, I found out that it's a bluff. This tank's made of nothing but paper, and you have to be seriously unlucky to actually bounce it. Still though, this is gonna be the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, give it a like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget on that bell icon. Also, this video ended up being a bit longer than I originally expected, but that's probably because it's a list. And I should also say that I'm probably never going to make a list like this ever again, because I can't really make any normal jokes in it. A joke has to have some kind of like a build up, a plot twist, and a punchline, and here I can only shove a random punchline into it. It's kind of boring and cringy. Yeah, I can't really make jokes in a list, so I'm probably never going to make a list like this again. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe even more, but most likely not. Still though, hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye.